Good afternoon, everyone. Ian Maddox. This is the HMFP Financial Planning Simplified series. We just created some additional phenomenal content with Jeremy Tuggle, Birmingham Market President for Bryant Bank. And just like the previous series, the content was so good that we want to break it into two parts. So please check it out, part one and part two, and we'll be back in a few weeks. Until next time, Ian Maddox.
I've had a lot of conversations. We've had them internally, and you brought up the election, and I think in some ways, I guess it depends on where your political allegiances were, and either you're really happy or you're really disappointed, or somewhere in between. Just if I look at this from a plural standpoint, just an agnostic standpoint, just some of the decisions, or excuse me, some of the policies that are being projected, that could work really well, or it might not. And so I think that goes back to what you're saying about the wait and see, because we just don't know in a global economy how a decision by the U.S. could impact. And that pours directly back into banks, directly into lending, directly into kind of the health of the economy, inflation rates and all that.
So I think it goes back to making sure that your fundamentals are sound. And so that way, no matter which way the economy drivers are pointing us, you're still going to be okay. You have some cushion, some barrier to the movement either side. One thing from an inflation standpoint that we have run into just in the industry is construction. So people that are wanting to build a house, say you started the project 18 months ago, the contractor gives you a price on it. Well, when it's time to order the windows, the cost of the windows is
totally different, right?
And so every project was running over 15, 20, 25%. And in some cases, it caused real problems, because let's say you have a home that's appraised for pre-construction $500,000. It's going to cost you $500,000 to build it. Well, by the time you're finished with all the materials and putting it in, it might end up being $600. The appraisal doesn't change. And so you have people that are having to put a lot more cash into deals to make it work, or they're in real stress of trying to finish the job. So that's been maybe the biggest impact of inflation that we've seen, is just construction projects are just almost impossible to manage.
Yeah.
So you have to put a barrier in on the approval side to say, hey, I know you think it's going to be 500. We're going to need to get you approved for 575 or for 580. We're going to need a contingency in there to be able to make it to the end of the project. So
there's a silver lining to a lot of this, and I observe this with client behavior on our side, and maybe you would say the same thing. The silver lining would be, because you just alluded to this, that cash flow is important, margin is important. I guess technically as a banker, it always is, right? Absolutely. As a financial planner, it always is. But things shift over time. Margins can be a little tighter, a little bit narrower. You can do some things a little more aggressively. So maybe the silver lining is that as a society, and I'm getting a little philosophical here, maybe as a society, we're just basically saying we need to be more disciplined. We need to act more like our grandparents did, right? To a degree. And that's not a bad thing. It can have an impact on economic growth, but would you agree that may be a good behaviorally?
Absolutely. No question at all. The easiest borrowers for us to deal with are the ones that have margin, just because we can sort of project that they're going to be okay no matter which way the waves are running, which way the wind's blowing, they're going to be able to survive it. If you have a little bit of margin and you get a hiccup, or very little margin and you get a hiccup, you got some trouble coming. Consumer debt's pretty high.
We're get back to where we were 8-10 years ago.
A lot of people are on the credit
We've
cards.
leveraged things up.
Just be cautious.
It's good advice. We can close on that, actually.
That's right.
From a bank, Joe, let me just close with this. Internally, from a bank standpoint, you guys have a lot of internal conversations with your executive team. Anything that you would say, hey, we've learned something here, and maybe this is how we'll operate a little bit going forward? Let's say, for example, prices stay high. Because there's a reality that this may become more systemic, right? Sure. That this is just a longer term thing. So what are some of the kind of internal operational things that you guys have learned?
I will say I don't like to brag at all, but I feel pretty comfortable in the bank that I work for. We are very conservative in our approach, and in this cycle of higher rates and margins getting tighter, we're doing great. We as a bank don't take unnecessary risk, and so it's a situation where our customers are all performing well. I feel very comfortable where we are, no matter which way the rate cycle goes, because we take a good, safe, sound, conservative approach to this. It's, you know, you can, if you have risky loans that you're putting on the portfolio of a bank and things go bad, you risk the bank.
Yep.
And so we're trying to establish this place where we're here in 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to sell it. We want to have a community bank in the state of Alabama for the next 100 years. And the only way to do that is to be conservative and sound in your management practices. And I feel like we do that. So I sleep pretty good at night.
That's awesome. Another good commercial.
That's right. Don't give me a chance. I'll do it.
No, I love it. I love it. Now that's great advice, and it synergizes perfectly. The other Jeremy provided some context really from like the retail side, distribution
Sure,
side.
yeah.
So this gives the other side of it, which is, you know, really on the money side of it specifically, because that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
You know, day in and day out, and you have a good finger on the pulse of small businesses because that's really your bread and butter.
Sure, no doubt.
Across the state. So, anyways, we will look forward to our next community guest in a few weeks. Until next time, if we can be of help, Maddox HMFP.